Hello out there. How are you doing? This is Alejandro Fleury, and I am about to start the streaming on how to lose weight without cutting calories. Okay, so this is very simple. It's going to be a little informal. I want it to be interactive. So let's get going. Okay, so first and foremost, who am I, and why should you listen to me? Okay, so as I said before, my name is Alejandro Fleury. I am the owner of Altus Fitness and Nutrition. All right, and I have been doing this for 7 years as a career professionally, but I've been doing it informally for about 21 years, and that gives me no credentials whatsoever to do this. I do understand that. However, I am a twice certified nutrition coach, once with the International Sports Sciences Association and Precision Nutrition, two of the largest and most recognized institutes out there. Also, and more importantly, is that in my 7 years of practice, I have helped live dozens of people to lose weight, get healthier, get fitter, get more muscular, all that stuff. Everyone has their own needs and goals and interests. But more importantly, I have helped people lose anywhere between 25 and 110 pounds and keep them off. Okay, so that's basically the reason why you may have a couple of things to learn from this streaming. Okay, so let's get going. Okay, so first and foremost, the reason I'm doing this is because there are a lot of misconceptions about weight loss out there. One of them being, and this is something that even some very reputable, very well-known, fitness professionals will repeat to, failure, which is the cornerstone of a weight loss program, has to be calorie cutting, which is absolutely not true unless you're doing it for a very specific purpose. If you do want to lose a couple of pounds over a 4 to 6 week period for a very specific goal, namely if you're a bodybuilder or a fitness competitor or something of that sort, by all means, this is something that may be beneficial to you. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe like a fighter or something like that has to cut weight. So there are mechanical ways of helping you lose the weight by cutting calories, elevating, the thermogenic effect, just going into saunas and all those things that are not necessarily very healthy for you, but they are very extreme. And sometimes, more often than not, they do work in the short run. Okay. Now, the one thing that for you and I, like the average Joes and Janes out there, the more that we're more concerned about is how to get healthier. So lose weight without using crash diets, without doing anything that is, just a lot of nonsense and using trends and fats and things like that may be detrimental to your health in the long run. So that is the reason why I want to tap into this. Okay. All right. So let's start from the basics. So there's a lot to be said for, like the calories and energy intake. So a calorie is nothing more than a measurement of energy output. And you can actually measure calories on even like wood burning. Okay. So for whatever reason, I don't want to go into the history on why we ended up having calories like something as like untouchable or hard to understand, or as a calorie as being the villain in weight loss. I mean, something that I am going to say is that this has been carefully planned over the last 70 years. It's 70 years in the making, and there are people behind the fact that we view calories today as the culprit for weight gain. It's more than obvious that it is not necessarily, accurate information, because we are more concerned about calories these days than any time in history. Okay. Yet at this time in history, we are more obese, we have more heart disease, we have more metabolic syndrome, we have more type 2 diabetes, we have more, like weight gain related illnesses than ever before, ever in history. Okay. So there's got to be something that we're not doing right. Okay. That's the first thing. Now let's get into the basics. What is food? Okay. Food are substances that you ingest in order to give you like energy or to repair or to rebuild. Okay. So all foods, all things being equal, all foods are going to be composed of macronutrients and micronutrients. So the macronutrients are the nutrients that will add calories. Okay. So energy to your body basically. And the micronutrients are substances that will not add calories, yet they will play a very important role in metabolic processes, and those being the vitamins, minerals, and some other trace elements. Okay, going back to the macro. So the macros are the carbohydrates, then there's the proteins, and then there's the fats. Each one of them will have a different caloric output. Okay. So what that means is that for every gram of carbohydrates, for example, you're going to have 4 calories, okay, or kilocalories. All right. So for each gram of protein, you will have about 4 grams of 4 calories. And for every gram of fat, then you're going to have about 9 calories. And right about now, you must be going like, okay, so I see something with the fat. So does that mean that if fat adds more calories to my diet, should I avoid fats? Remember, the title is you don't have to cut calories in order to lose weight permanently. Okay. Now, each one of those macronutrients is going to have or play a role in your metabolism in your body. Okay. And typically carbohydrates are associated with energy, like energy replenishing or energy production. Typically protein is it's identified as muscle building and things like that. And typically fat is like fattening, which is completely absurd, but typically fat is understood to be kind of like the repair aid for the body. Okay. So for the most part, that is true. Now, that is not to say that your body will use them or need them in the same measure. Okay. It's not true. You can, another one of the biggest myths out there is that you need all the macronutrients equally in order for you to be healthy. That is not necessarily true. Okay. And this is where I'm going with this. And by the way, this that I'm teaching here, that I'm actually informing you on here, this has been widely researched by some very well-known and very reputable professionals, such as Dr. Jason Fung, Dr. David Perlmutter, Dr. Ben Bigman, and then some very, very well-known YouTubers and professionals as well as Mike Mutzel, Thomas DeLauer, the guy from the Six Pack apps and whatnot. But there's much more to him than only that, of course, than Dr. Eric Berg and Dr. Ken Berry. Those are just a few of them that practice the same principles that I am actually communicating right now. Okay. So your body will produce the carbohydrates needed for you to function. Okay. So for your brain, and you may have heard out there that, there's no way you can live without carbohydrates because carbohydrates will turn into sugars and your brain will basically live off of, those, sugars or, glucose, glycogen, and whatnot. Okay. So, however, there are no basic or essential carbohydrates in your body. Okay. So your body does not need them. Okay. Furthermore, your body will produce any amount required for it to function. Okay, so your body will produce a glucose, like even your liver will produce glucose for you to function if it were that your brain needed that in order to live, basically, or to function. Now, when it comes to proteins and fats, so the minimum building blocks of protein are amino acids. Okay, so amino acids, peptides. So they will group into peptides and then other molecules called, proteins. And the proteins will, amongst other things, make up for like muscle tissue and whatnot. Now, when it comes to the fats will break down to essential fatty acids. So, okay, so here's like some clues. Carbohydrates, there's no essential carbohydrates or sugars or anything like that. When you talk about proteins, there's essential amino acids. And then when you talk about fats, there's essential fatty acids. So you see how you do require an input of these essential substances for your body to effectively operate. Whereas when it comes to the carbohydrates, your body will produce the glucose needed for you to function. Okay? You can get a hint of where I'm going with this. Okay? Now, if that's clear, let's move on to the next thing. Every time you take a bite of something, your body will react. There's a bunch of, or a chain of processes that are going to be triggered by every single bite, even before you put it into your mouth. All right, you're going to like the smell and like the anticipation of you eating is going to cause certain reactions in your body. Those reactions are going to involve a bunch of different substances, including neurotransmitters and hormones and like other substances as it goes through your digestive tract. Okay, so ultimately every bite is going to be broken down into the building blocks that your body will need to recreate or to basically sort out its needs. Okay, whether it's to gain more muscle or to gain more energy or to repair something or to for reproductive organs and all that stuff. Okay, so that's what happens. Essentially, there is this a hormone called, and this is only one of the myriad of hormones that are going to be involved, but this is the one, I don't want to overcomplicate things. This is the one that you may be interested in learning more about, which is called the insulin. Okay, so insulin will react differently to each one of those macronutrients, namely carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Okay, so when you ingest a carbohydrate, if it's what's called a simple carb, which is sugars in various shapes, like all the way from monosaccharides, single molecule, to polysaccharides, which is multiple sugars bonded together, your body will will produce a lot of insulin, okay, to metabolize that sugar. Ultimately, it comes down to, if the blood sugar needs to be metabolizing, getting to the cell by the effect of insulin, and that's what happens. Okay, so if it's a carbohydrate, the more simple the carbohydrate, the more robust or the strong that reaction is going to be. Okay, now then comes protein, and proteins once again they're not going to spike your insulin levels all that much because it's not going to increase your blood sugar levels all that much. All right. However, it will also, to an extent, increase your blood sugar levels. Therefore, your insulin levels are going to be raised. Okay. Now comes fat. Now, fat, in terms of insulin production, is the mildest one, in the sense that, so if you have, say, whatever, like 10 grams of carbohydrates, 10 grams of protein, and 10 grams of fat, the one that will trigger the least amount or production of insulin is going to be the fat. Now, how does all of this come together? Okay, so you may have heard that, or you by now, I'm pretty sure you're clear that if you want to lose weight, you actually what you want to do is you want to lose body fat. You don't want to lose, like muscle mass or bone or skin. I mean, you don't want to necessarily lose or too much water. So you want to just burn, or you want to lose the excess water for sure. And you want to lose and get rid of the fat, the excess fat, okay? So there's nothing wrong with fat. Fat actually plays a role in our health. The problem now is that we are getting too much of it, okay? We're storing too much of it. Here is the simple yet complex issue. We actively, on a daily basis, try to lose body fat by cutting calories and not necessarily minding the type or the source of the calories. Right about now, I am pretty sure you must be linking the previous information with what I'm saying now. So if calories were the culprit, okay, it would be just a matter of eating low-fat stuff, and then you automatically would cut, anywhere between like 20 and 50% of all the calories that you consume, okay? Now, if you think about it, we are consuming less fat than 50 years ago, yet we are fatter than 50 years ago. How is that possible? Because we have been paying attention to the wrong macronutrient. Fat will not make you fat unless used in very specific conditions, whereas carbohydrates will make you gain weight and fat for two reasons. Number one, carbohydrates are hydrophilic. They bond to water. And they typically, every molecule of carbohydrate will bond to two, molecules of water, H2O. That's the first one. So it will bulk you up. Okay. That's something very well known amongst bodybuilders and fitness competitors. All right. Now, the second thing is that you reducing the amount of energy that you get from your food does not make any difference in what your body will do with the source of that energy. Okay. Why? Because you are saving calories if you eat less fat. But if you are compensating those calories with carbohydrate intake, number one, they're going to swell you up because of the water retention. Number two, they actually will trigger more regular and more abrupt insulin spikes because of the high blood sugar levels that you're getting consistently. In other words, it does not make much sense for you to eat less fat, to lose fat, and eat more of any other substance that will help you regain the fat. So you're trying to reduce your fat intake because you don't want to be fat. However, that fat is actually not wreaking havoc with your blood sugar levels and your insulin levels, therefore, whereas very lean protein, to an extent, and to a higher extent, carbohydrates will do a very good job at elevating your blood sugar levels, which is what you don't want to do. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, so this is where I'm going. you do want to mind your macros, okay? You do want to mind your macros. And that's exactly why the title of this video is that, okay? So if you were to keep all your calories constant and significantly drop your carbohydrate intake, and you added a little bit of fat to the protein as opposed to going for extra lean protein, going for any other type of protein. I mean, it doesn't have to be fatty, but any other type of protein that is has a little more fat content, what you will effectively be doing is you will be curbing your insulin levels throughout the day, which is something that even endocrinologists tell you to, and dietitians and whatnot, to do or to mind, but they don't give you the right tools. How do I know this? This is something that, once again, has been time tested, tried over and over again. There is, for one, on the hypothesis that fat will make you fat, there's absolutely no credible research done that will prove that. Okay. Number two, there are people out there that are practicing actively this information that I'm giving you, and they are having, including myself, phenomenal results. Okay. So one thing that is my motto, it's my policy. I don't ever preach or recommend anything that I haven't tested myself. Okay. And I have tested, things like, the paleo diet. I've tested the keto diet with outstanding results. I mean, performance wise, for heavy lifting and explosive and type of CrossFit, Olympic weightlifting and things like that, the paleo diet is, quite frankly, fantastic. For endurance and overall health, I would hands down recommend trying the keto diet. Now, the keto diet has to be done right. It has to be done in a sensible way. There's a lot of people recommending a whole lot of nonsense out there, and people get like a bad feeling about the keto diet because of that. Okay. Now, if you're one of those people that says, well, this has not been around for long, there's not enough research about that, or you're one of those hashtag scientists out there, everyone's a hashtag scientist these days. If you are one of those hashtag scientists, I'm gonna say this. Number one, the keto diet as such was designed or was tested for the first time in 1938. Okay. So it has been in use for therapeutical reasons since. Okay. So that makes it as a trend, if you care to think about it that way, it makes it almost like 100-year-old trend. Okay. So the fact that you didn't know it before does not mean that it didn't exist. Okay. So it's been used for people with dementia, seizures, ADHD, some other cognitive issues with phenomenal results. If you think that, well, the paleo diet, the name says it by itself, there's pretty good anthropological research that shows that we used to eat a certain way 300,000 years ago. Okay. Now, if you think about it, before paleo, because even before we were we were hunter-gatherers, but agriculture came about 50,000 years ago. Before that, we ate basically anywhere between carnivore and paleo, okay? Meaning pure fat and protein, a little bit of like roots and things like that, things that we could collect, a little bit of berries and roots that we could collect that would be grown, in the wild. And later on, that turned into like the paleo diet. So that means that we have been eating this way ourselves and our ancestors for as long as 1.8 million years. All right. So there are absolutely no double-blind studies, no meta-analysis. There's no, randomized control trials made like 1.8 million years ago or 300,000 years ago. But the fact that we are here and the people that are not eating the way that the rest of the world is eating, which is variations of what's called the SAD diet, the standard American diet, are actually healthier than the average. Okay, what is the average? Well, the average person carries, I don't know, I think it's 20 pounds or something like that. The world population, 39% of the world population is actually overweight. 18% of kids are overweight or obese, and that's kids under 12 years old. So we are not in a good spot, and we have been faithfully practicing these low fat, low calorie diets for the better part of the last 50 years. Okay. And if you care to do your own research, you're going to see a correlation to when these types of diets started and the body weight of the population. And you will see that there is a correlation, if not a causation, because it's very hard to prove, but you can see there's a very strict correlation amongst the two things. Okay. Now, that's more than enough information. No cutting calories, minding the type of macros. Okay. So carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. This is only like an introduction to all of that. It's very hard for me to just give you the whole layout, but by all means, feel free to reach out, contact me. I will give you like a full consultation to like tailor to your needs. I hope you're getting, some benefit out of this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you.